You know that feeling? That deep, in-your-bones exhaustion that a good night's sleep just can't seem to fix? Well, today we're diving into a fascinating text called The Manual of Being Nobody, and it explores this very unique, very modern kind of fatigue.
Yeah, the manual has a perfect name for it, the tiredness of being you. And we're not talking about the kind of tired you get from a long work week or when you're feeling under the weather. This is something else, something deeper. It's a structural exhaustion that, honestly, no vacation is ever going to cure.
And here's where it gets really mind-bending. The manual suggests, what if the problem isn't your story? Having the wrong job or living in the wrong city. What if the real problem is the relentless, crushing pressure to even have a story in the first place?
All right, so first up, let's really dig into what this deeper kind of tiredness is all about.
Think about it. We've all done this, right? You get a new job, move to a new city, and for a little while, everything feels fresh and exciting. But then, that same old exhaustion creeps back in. The manual argues that's because we're just putting a Band-Aid on the real problem, the constant, non-stop pressure to perform as a consistent you.
Okay, so that brings us right to our next part, the burden of being someone. And let me tell you, it's a full-time job with absolutely zero vacation days. So what does it even mean to be someone? Well, according to this text, it's basically a non-stop performance. From the moment you wake up, you're managing your social role, you're curating your personal story, and you're trying to prove your worth to everyone around you. It just never stops.
And this job of being you can actually be broken down into 4 key labors. Think of these as the background apps that are always running on your mental operating system, just quietly draining your energy, day in and day out. And get this, these aren't just things we choose to do. The manual describes them as deeply wired survival instincts. We need to be consistent so people can trust us, and legible so they can understand us. And we're constantly in a state of performance and maintenance just to keep our place in the social order. And that right there is where the burden comes from.
So if that's the problem, what on earth is the solution? Well, this is where the manual gets pretty radical. It offers a counterintuitive fix. We need to redefine what it means to be nobody. You see, the answer isn't to just write a better story for yourself or become a different, more interesting somebody. The real solution, it argues, is to step away from the storytelling machine altogether. It's about learning a whole new skill, the art of being nobody.
Okay, but what does nobody actually mean here? Because it's probably not what you're thinking. The manual is super clear about this. Being nobody isn't about being worthless, it's about being undefined. It's not about being invisible, it's about being deeply present, just without all the noise of self-management. And it's definitely not about being irresponsible, it's about being truly free.
Yeah, nobody means free, but free from what exactly? It's freedom from that constant pressure, the pressure to be consistent, to be legible, to be predictable for everybody else. It's about finally being able to put down that incredibly heavy burden of having to be someone 24/7.
All right, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But how do you actually practice being nobody? Let's get into the practical side of things, what the manual calls the practices of disappearance.
So first you have these practices you can use out in the world. It's kind of like social camouflage. Dressing in a way that blends in, hanging out on the edge of the party instead of the center, giving a really vague answer when someone asks what you do. The goal is to participate in life without collecting all that heavy baggage of a defined identity.
And then there are the internal practices, things you do for yourself. These are all about quieting that inner narrator, the voice that's always performing even when you're totally alone. Maybe you try going a whole day without looking in a mirror. Or you could simply practice letting go of the need to constantly tell and retell your own life story.
Now, the promise of all this is a really profound sense of freedom and lightness. But, and this is super important, the manual is also really honest about the potential downsides. The ultimate goal here is a life where you're free from the exhaustion of performance, a life where you can finally stop managing your own public image and just be present with the people and the experiences that are right there in front of you.
However, here's that shadow side. The manual gives a crucial warning. What happens when you get too good at not being found? In a real crisis, an illness, a heartbreak, a failure, the person who has mastered the art of disappearance might find themselves truly alone. A thinned-out social network has very real consequences.
And this really gets to the heart of the whole thing. The practice is a tool, not a final destination. The point isn't to erase yourself completely. The point is to be free. free to choose when to step up and be a somebody and when to step back and be nobody. It's about taking back the power to decide how you show up in the world. So the manual leaves us with a question. How much of your life's energy is spent just on being you? And what could you create with that energy if you got it all back?